everyone. Today I'm going to explain how to create machines using a UiPath process and not Orchestrator interface. So, the first step, I'm creating a new empty process in UiPath Studio, and the second one is create an Excel sheet with computer's name. So, as you can see here, I have created a sheet in Excel with computer's name and putting some testing data here, and later I will add another column here called machine key, because after creating the computers I'll get back the key from Orchestrator. Okay, so I will create another sequence for using this Orchestrator API for creation machines. So here I'll create another sequence and I will call machine Orchestrator API. And in this sequence, I'll create machines using Orchestrator APIs. If you don't know, in activities is one activity called Orchestrator API here. You can just drag and drop this activity and put it here in this sequence. But it's only one concern. You need to be licensed and you need to have permission in Orchestrator for creation machines. Otherwise, you cannot using these activities. So, my account has permission to create machines in Orchestrator. And now I can create and I can use this activity for checking if one machine exists in Orchestrator, and if not exists, I can create a new one, and if exists, I will get back the license key or the machine key as we know. So the first step is checking if one machine exists in Orchestrator. And as you can see here, this activity doesn't have any property because in the latest version of Orchestrator, I currently have 22.10, all the properties of this activity are inside of it. So you can choose here, I will explain shortly what this activity has as attributes or properties and what is needed in our case. Okay, so Orchestrator folder. We can choose different folder here because automatically you can read this folder from Orchestrator with your account. But I will not choose any, and this means that these machines will create in default tenant or in the main tenant of Orchestrator. If you need specific machines in specific Orchestrator folder, you can choose one of them. The second one is method. So we have get, post, put, patch, delete. The first step that we are going to check is if one machine exists there or not. So it will be a get method. The third is relative endpoint, and with a relative endpoint means everything that is after basic URL of Orchestrator. So if your Orchestrator is the basic URL is orchestrator.com/something, you need to put only everything that is after orchestrate.com. And in my case, I'll put what is needed to check if one machine exists or not. And in this case is all data machines. And I need to put a filter there, but I'll check a little bit later. Json Payload is body of this API endpoint, but in this case it's not needed. So we need to click this show advanced option, see more, and you can just enable continue on error or not. And in the output, we have headers if we needed any of them, but in this case we don't need it. But we need JSON response. So what is the result of this request? And status code. So I'll create two variables here and we'll call it response, like get method. And I'll create another variable for status code get. Response get, this variable is string and status code is a number. I'll go back here in this one, in the relative endpoints. And I need to use one API but with a filter. And in this case, I'll use a filter name. And the logic will be find everything in Orchestrator that machines is like name is equal with name of machines that we have put it here in the Excel. So for this, I'll declare here an argument in computer name, because I will invoke this method inside the main a sequence, and this will be part of one for each that we are iterated inside Excel. So here, so this relative endpoint, I'll update it with this computer name, and I will put a filter here in the URL. If you would like to check this one, you can check it in Swagger API of Orchestrator. I have already checked, and I will update it how should be if I filter with the name, and will be the full relative endpoint in this case will be like that. So it's OData machines filter name equals and our argument computer name, and just save it. Okay, now we have completed this API. The next step is checking the response. What we'll get from this, and we'll have a status as well. We can continue with checking the response, but I will advise to using first checking the status. So we need to check what is the status of it, and later, if the status is like 400, means we don't have permission to use this API, or maybe we don't have permission in Orchestrator at all. So first, I will advise, as I mentioned, you check the status code. So I will use an if here to check, and to be more, I'll do something else. I'll use another sequence, and I will include everything inside this sequence. Okay. Okay, and I will check status code. And if status code is equal to 200, means this API is okay. And now we need to check now the response. So if we have any response or count in this response as 1, it means that this machine exists. If count is 0, means that this machine doesn't exist in Orchestrator. But first we have a response in string here. And we need to deserialize this response and later check the count if this exists or not. So inside the then, I will deserialize this response, but as you can see, I don't have any packages for deserialize. So I need to go in the all packages, so manage packager, and try to search for UiPath web API. And part of these activities, I have this like inside these packages, I have the serialize of JSON of any API. And it will be easier as well to check any like key inside of the JSON. Okay, now in then I will search again for this activity. As you can see, I have it here. I'll put it as an input. I can go as well here. Okay, as input we have request get. As a type argument, I'll use object. And the object is part of this, and I will store inside. We can create a variable, call it response get JSON. Okay. And now I will do one assign to get the value of this count. Call it count row, and inside of it I will deserialize this response get JSON. And in this one I will use response get JSON dot item, and like key of this value, it's called at data, sorry, oh, data dot count dot toString. You can find it is part of this Swagger API of your orchestrator, but this OData count, I would like to convert it to integer, so I'll use convert integer function. Okay, and here I will declare like count row. Okay, and if it's count row here is string, I will change to integer. And part of this response you can check as well in Postman, but you can find this information in Swagger API. Now I will check. I'll have another if here. If count is 1, it means that this machine exists. And if this machine exists, we need to get the key that is already created in Orchestrator. So I'll have another assign here, and I'll open this because it's better to see. So response get JSON. The first key is value. And is the first row. And in this, I will get item called license key. toString. And I want to assign this as an argument, but this argument will be out. Machine key as a string because we are going to save later in Excel. Okay, but if count is 0 means that this machine doesn't exist in Orchestrator, and that means we need to create it. And to create this machine, I will use another Orchestrate API HTTP request. In this case, it will be a post. And as a relative, it's all data machines. I will need body, but I will declare in one assign, and same, I will create a response post and the status code post. Okay, and for this body, I will declare one assign, and I'll call it body. And as well, what what is the format of this body? You can find it in the Swagger, but I will copy for you. You can put it more information if you need it to specify the details of machine, but I will put it only two. One is name and the second is template. The name and the template. If you need more, you can put it all the object that is part of post. Okay, and I will use this body here. Okay. Now the logic will be the same. I'll check the status code and later I'll get the license key. I'll check if status code is 201. It means the creation is done. And if it's done, I'll get one assign. And if I'll get a key, and in this case, I'll have response. Okay, I need to deserialize first. So I'll do the deserialize. Okay. I'll use the same one and declare another response post JSON. I'll open a big model to be better. So in this item, I can find it, license key. Okay. So this sequence, we can put it even try catch, and we can put our error if more logs if APIs is not working as should be, but I'll let it like that. It's okay for now, and I will go back in the main here, and I will read Excel, and for each row I will put the key. But first I will create a new column, and I will call it machine key. You can use this way if you have more machine to create, and create one by one in Orchestrator will take too much time, and you can share this with the right one that we are going to use this key, and the people that are going to connect to Orchestrator, and it's like a faster solution. So first I will read Excel, and I will use Excel scope for this. Okay, but first I will choose another sequence. Okay, I've put it in this case. I put it. It will not be like a full path because I will just put it the name of the Excel. Because the Excel is part of the solution, and if it's part of the solution, it's only the name. Okay, and I will read Excel, and I will store inside the data table. Read range. Okay, and here I will create. Okay. Okay, and I'll go in variable, and I will change the scope of this to main sequence because I'll call it later in one for each. So for each row in data table, I'll call it computer name. Let me check again. Okay, it's not changed. I'll change again. Okay, and I go in main sequence and I'm looking for this variable here. Now I can see. And later, what we need to do is to invoke this method. And we have two arguments here. One is input and will be computer name, and one is output. But now we have two columns in Excel. So I will assign one variable as a computer name that is in the first column. Okay. And is like current row, first row. Okay. I put it here. Okay. If I let it like this, I will just create all information. I will just create in Orchestrator all the machines that are part of this Excel sheet. But I needed back machine key. And for these changes, I need to declare another assign here, because I need to iterate to know which row is in for each, because I need to update the cell. So here I will call another Excel scope, because I will write the cell. If you want to write cell for each row, you need to count as well rows. That's why I have declared earlier this assign, and I will explain to you how you can use it. I'll do write cell. Okay, and in this case, we have computer name as a sheet. We have value that will come back by here, and you have like the cell number. And I will explain. So first we need to declare a variable here to store machine key. Okay, it's output, and I will go here and will use it in the right cell. Now machine key are stored in the second column. Okay, and for each row will be different. The first row will be like B2. So the first row is B2 plus something in the next iteration. So first I will assign here count row will be integer, and I will declare like 0. I will change the scope and I'll change the type. Okay, and here will be B. The first one will be 2. Plus count row. And I will increase this count row for each iteration. And I will have another sign. Count row will be count row. Okay, plus 1. Okay, and everything needs to be inside for each. So for the first row, I will update machine key in the first row, and for each iteration, this key will change. So it looks like everything is okay, so I'll run the process. Okay, the process is finished, so I'll open computers, Excel, and let's see the results. As you can see, I have all the machines generated by the Orchestrator API, and is here. So the goal of this session is to help you to create more than one machine using Orchestrator Interface, and this process can help you to create a lot of machines at a time, and you can share this key with the right people that are going to connect Orchestrator. So thank you for watching and see you in the next video.